But I now want to switch gears a little bit and focus on the biggest January deals. Now that the window is shut, what were the biggest deals of the window in the Premier League and across Europe? I mean, Nick, I'm going to come to you. Financially, the biggest deal was Luis Diaz obviously going to Liverpool. That seems like a great pickup for them. Obviously, looking elsewhere in Europe, there's some really big moves, but let's focus on him first, right? That seems like Liverpool, once again, have got ahead of all the competition in the Premier League. Tottenham and others really wanted to sign him, but they made their move very quickly and obviously been tracking him for a while. And he seems like a very Liverpool player, right? The way this man plays.
I think people who aren't Liverpool fans are going to quickly hate this dude. He is a handful. He is the sort of guy that you don't want to play against, and kind of slots in. If you're Sadio Mane, you have to be the top of your game, which he often is. But if you don't like Sadio Mane and how he kind of plays on the edge and tries to get away with stuff, Luis Diaz has a little bit of that to him. And I'm sure that when Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool went up against Porto and he got a hold of this guy and got a sight of this guy up close and personal and saw some of the stuff kind of sneaking out, and this guy, I think, really will be an absolute handful, and he fits the prototype. And you start to look at the active players they're signing. There's a pattern here. Diogo Jota is the sort of guy who's going to constantly popping his head into places and doing anything he can kind of to chew out his inch of grass on the field. And I mean, I think it is the prototypical signing for them. And I think he will quickly become one of the more celebrated players at Liverpool and one of the least celebrated players in the rest of the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, $44.7 million. That's the fee they paid initially. A lot of add-ons included in that. Great signing, like you said, Nick, to fit the mold. And just really, I think, just continuing Liverpool's smart moves in the transfer market. When they want a player, they're okay to go out and spend big. They don't bring in a lot of players, but definitely quality over quantity for Liverpool in transfer markets. That's the way they've been going. And with some of the good young players, Harvey Elliott's just coming back to full fitness. Obviously, Curtis Jones as well is coming back in. Some really good young players mixed in with new players as well. So, yeah, watch out for Liverpool in the next few seasons. I want to focus on a few other players. I can see in the comments there's a lot of angry, upset Arsenal fans, by the way. Tell us why you're angry. Tell us who you expected to come in and why you're angry perhaps that Aubameyang's left and no one else has come in. Because, yeah, you can see on there, Arsenal's let me down again. I mean, unfortunately, I feel like it's a reoccurring theme generally over the last few years. But the one thing I would say, they did spend big in the summer. So maybe that's why they're outlay in the summer. Didn't maybe have the funds to spend right now. But if they do get into the Champions League and finish in the top four, maybe they can have a lot of money to spend in the summer. But let's focus on some of the other big moves around Europe. Obviously, Vlahovic to Juventus. He looked like he was going to go to the Premier League for a long time. That was a huge monster fee there. What are we talking, like nearly, 90 odd million dollars in the end, all said and done? I mean, that's a great pickup, right, Andy, from what we've seen of him. Juve have got themselves. They've moved out a lot of players to get him, but that's what they needed, a big target forward to build their team around. And I think he'll be a great fit for their system.
Yeah, I think what's happening at Juventus can probably be used by a number of clubs in the Premier League. Arsenal, probably one of them, Tottenham, maybe another, with how they are kind of staging the rebuild that's going on there. Obviously, they're in a very, very big transitional period. And so getting that piece in place from the get-go before then building around him, I think is very smart. And wasn't it just so Juventus for them to come in at the last minute after months and months of Vlahovic being talked about to every club, every top club in Europe, and then Juventus say, no, we'll keep him here in Italy. We'll have him, and we'll start that rebuild around him. It is going to be, I think, a perfect fit. He's going to give Massimiliano Allegri, I think, a lot of the characteristics in a center forward that he's not had, I don't know, maybe ever since he's been at Juventus. And I know he's had some good players up top in that team. Higuain scored a ton of goals for them. But I just don't think he's had like the perfect fit, the player that's an all-around type player. And I think that's what he gives. I think that's why he was so coveted by those Premier League clubs. So him not coming to the Premier League, a little bit of a disappointment. And on the Arsenal note, because he was so heavily linked to them, I agree with the comments. It does feel like it's another letdown from them because they were probably one of the 2 or 3 Premier League sides most talked about during this window, linked with the most players. And then at the end, they really get nothing over the line. They don't make any additions to help the team. All they've done since the summer window closed was really take Aubameyang out of the team, subtraction. And maybe it's been a little bit of addition by subtraction for them in that time since. But they're certainly a weaker squad now without him. Whatever form he was in, whatever version of him it was going to be. And so I'd be a little disappointed with that as well. And I know that feeling as well as someone who's followed Spurs for a number of years. It's always a lot of promise. It's always a lot of hope and rumors and brilliant players that you're linked with. And on deadline day, it just kind of comes and goes. And this year it was a little bit different, kind of the shoe is on the other foot situation for those two in North London.
That's very true. I mean, when you look at these deals that happened, the big names, Coutinho to Aston Villa, I think there's a team there that probably did some of the best business, right? If we focus on that and which clubs really gave themselves a chance of pushing up to the next level in the league. Steven Gerrard did some great moves there, right, Nick? With Coutinho coming in, Luca Dean, and Newcastle. I think, like we said, if Bruno Gomes comes in and does the business, then I think that's a great pickup. And they've had a very good window with the solid players they brought in Trippier, Wood, and Byrne, who know the Premier League, and Target as well, know it really well, and very established players. So what do you think about when it comes to that, about which clubs did the best business?
I do like what Newcastle did. I thought Kieran Trippier, I think that set a tone. You've got a guy who is, again, same thing I mentioned with Guimaraes. He's a hard man. He's the sort of guy who's going to get in somebody's face if things aren't going well, not just in training, but on the games. And I look forward to continuing to see that. I thought he's been a lot. When he left Burnley for Spurs, it was kind of sneaky. He had, and we know now with Burnley, he had led the Premier League in crosses, which isn't that surprising considering the way they play. But him and Chris Wood, I mean, that signing kind of matches up a bit, right? If they get in that desperate situation, they have that big guy. But I want to tell you that while I like what Villa did, mostly because they continue to do the volume that they do, I love what Tottenham did. Betancourt with Højbjerg, you only really need one center back behind them at times, and it's going to give them so many options. Antonio Conte's move to Tottenham was the best thing that could happen for the January transfer window. When you look at what happened at Juve and you look at what happened to Tottenham, and I want to tell, we don't know how the adjustment's going to happen that quickly, but the Kulusevski move is intriguing to me. Euro this summer, he has trouble getting back into the flow of things because of an injury, but he gets out there, was against Poland, and that 5-goal thriller, 2 assists. He's a fantastic talent. And with Tottenham participating in Europe, I would look for this guy to have success in the Premier League, as we see a rotation with Bergwijn and Kane and Son and all these players. This guy could be the playmaker they need. Conte's going to know what he's getting, and we may see Kulusevski be the guy that they've wanted Dele Alli to be for some time.
Yeah, really interesting points there. It's so interesting to see these new players come in, I think, for me, and see how quickly that they adapt to the Premier League, because we know the Italian league, German league, French leagues, they're all great leagues, but the Premier League is unique. It's very different, and some players take to it like a duck to water, and others, quite frankly, never take to it. That's why we see the likes of Tanguy Ndombele just leaving, going back to Lyon, and there's a lot of players. Elso is another one, obviously for Tottenham as well, that's moved on. So I think it's just really interesting to see, and I'm really intrigued to see how some of these other big deals play out for Manchester City. I don't know if I think long term they may have done one of the best bits of business to bring in Alvarez from River Plate. An incredible time with Argentina and in the Argentinian league. Striker, very similar deal to Gabriel Jesus, where no one really had heard too much about, but knew he was very good and was on the up. And they've kind of got that deal done. He hasn't come in now. He's coming in the summer. He's staying with River Plate between now and then, can continue to develop. And maybe to me, that's like, well, we don't need to spend big and bring in Erling Haaland and the money he's asking for and agents' fees and incredible wages. I kind of like that City have gone a bit left field and said, you know what, we're going to go after some players who maybe that we have to develop and polish up a little bit. But Pep Guardiola and the coaching staff obviously back them to bring in a striker. And right now, they don't really need a striker to finish off a lot of these chances, do they? They're doing it all on their own with their attacking midfielders. So watch out for that for a club that did some really good business long term. And I think there's some some clubs out there that probably should have done more business. And that kind of links us nicely into the questions. I'm going to jump into the questions here because there's one here from Jean-Marc Sauzier, which says, left back for Chelsea still seems like a problem for the Lions. I mean, it does, right? I mean, they need a left wing back. Their wing backs, the way they play, obviously losing Ben Chilwell for the rest of the season and just relying on Marcus Alonso doesn't seem that smart, Andy, considering that they've got all these competitions going on and they need help, especially with the way that they play. They're just kind of putting Pulisic's played in wing-back positions, Hudson-Odoi, others have played out there. That's a real issue for Chelsea, considering they are not a team that is struggling for cash or players, but that is one area they've really neglected.
Yeah, that would have been a tough one, I think, to go out and make a signing in January, knowing that Chilwell, should be expected back for next season, and that it would really just be a short-term investment, or it would be a shorter-term use, but a long-term investment for the club. And I think Tuchel, maybe more than a lot of managers, given kind of some of the tactical flexibility and ideas that he has, I think he probably thinks he can get by with, maybe it's Marcos Alonso, maybe it's some of the more attacking players playing kind of as an inverted wing back there on the left side. I think he'll try to manage that situation pretty carefully. I was a little surprised to see that they were kind of linked with Ousmane Dembele, though, because of just the quantity of attacking players that they have up top, and the fact that they've even had to loan a handful of them out, including Tammy Abraham, who's having a fantastic season for Roma, playing under Jose Mourinho. It was just a little bit, I don't know, it felt like there wasn't that much of a plan, I guess, going on at Chelsea this window for what they were looking to do. And I know they had a big summer and they brought in Lukaku and they spent a lot of money just a few months ago. But it felt like that team needed something, I think, to push it over the top and really kind of guarantee not only their top four place, but I think keep them competitive for, to retain their Champions League title this season as well. So it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity for Chelsea because, they always have the money and they're always going to be linked with some of those top players. It's rare that we get through a window like this in the middle of the season when so many deals are being done and they're not one of the ones that we're talking about right off the top.
Well, let's keep the questions going. I like this. So send in your questions, guys, for us. We'll break down some of the clubs that maybe did good business, some that didn't. A lot of it is here on focusing on clubs that didn't do good business. Cole sent in a really good question saying, Arsenal having squad depth issues when they are only in one competition is amateur hour. Tell us how you really feel, Cole. Arteta is clearing the deadwood, though. So, yeah, that goes back to the Aubameyang point, right? It's even though Arsenal didn't bring in a replacement, just to get him out of the building and kind of move on into a new chapter. That says a lot about Arteta and what he's trying to build on the young team. And he's right, though. They only have the Premier League to focus on now. So maybe they can get through to the end of the season with Nketiah and Lacazette and get the job done and finish in the top four. What do you think about that, Nick?
Well, I think that's a thing that is there's something that's being overlooked a little bit at times right now, and that is the Africa Cup of Nations, because you look at Mohamed El Neni, he's been gone, Thomas Partey was gone. So it seems like a lot of things have to settle back down before we really know the gaps. Guys have been missing, Xhaka took a red card as well. There's three players that can run a midfield, whether you like them or not. And I think maybe to go back to what Andy pointed out earlier, the pressure to me that's on Arsenal is Arteta just continuing to manufacture consistent performances out of a young team that is still figuring out their leaders. They really do seem to have gotten their defense in order. That was something that the defending I've really appreciated from Arteta. He's taken his swings. I mean, for how long were we wondering whether William Saliba was going to play or was he going to go back to League One again? But he has patiently built the system. And the question will be, can he get the best out of the players that he has? And not just the young players. I just kind of look at Arsenal and think they will find the goals. They have creators. The question will be, can we see them find that the consistent use and the consistent combination? Because you want Odegaard out there. You want Smith Rowe out there. You want Saka out there. You want Lacazette to finish. You want Nketiah to feel like he's part of something. And we're not even touching on all the players. Gabriel Martinelli, what's the right mix going to be? Because Arsenal needs to take that next step from look at all these cool toys to these are the guys we're counting on. We're back where we were for so many years in terms of attack.
Yeah, really intrigued to see how it all knits together, because in fits and starts, Arsenal have been really good this season and pretty much ever since Arteta took charge. But consistency, right? It's finding those combinations and those partnerships. And I feel like they're getting there slowly but surely. Okay, looking through the questions, some great ones coming in. Got a really good one here from Chris. Says, what do you guys think about the Dele Alli transfer? Andy, I'm going to let you go with this, mate, because I know you're a big Dele Alli fan, and I think we all are, right? For many years at Tottenham, he was ripping it up and for the English national team, but he's lost his way. So what do you think about Chris's question?
Yeah, that's the perfect place to start as well. I think, I was watching a few kind of Dele Alli tribute videos this afternoon because that's just a thing, that I do with my own personal time. And what I came to is football's a lot less fun when Dele Alli's not playing and when Dele Alli is not at his best. And I know that that's maybe easy to say because when he was at his best, Tottenham were very good and they were in the Champions League final and FA Cup finals and things like that. But I think you also have to look a little deeper and kind of understand what the story of Dele Alli and where he comes from. He signed as he looked like he was 12 when he signed for Spurs from MK Dons, and nothing was expected of him. The fee wasn't that high. Maybe 2 or 3 years from now he'll develop into a useful player in the squad, something like that. And he was immediately just absolutely brilliant. And he scored some of the best goals that have been scored in the history of not only Tottenham but the Premier League. We all remember the one against Crystal Palace. That was hardly the only really, really high quality goal that he scored. And so it's a bit sad, I think, from a Tottenham perspective that things kind of ended the way that they have, and it's taken so long to play out. And Dele now moving on eventually. Going to Everton, we'll see if that's the right situation for him to go into. We've already talked about them a little bit. It just seems like it's convenient and easy for Everton to do that deal. And so I'm not exactly hopeful that he gets back to his best at Everton. It just doesn't seem kind of like the right situation. So Spurs fans are really going to miss Dele Alli. I can tell you that. He is one of those unique talents, a mercurial, not just player, but I think individual and personality that stands out and it isn't afraid to be a little bit different on and off the field. So hopefully we see the best of Dele Alli again, but I'm not so sure that it'll be at Everton. He had a great run at Tottenham. It almost feels like the last remaining remnant of the Maurizio Pochettino years and the best teams. And I know Kane is still there, but it's kind of like zombie Kane at this point after what happened in the summer. I think that's just the feeling. And that's not saying Kane is not the player that he was, although maybe he's clearly not. But I just think in terms of how Spurs fans feel about Kane as well, it's like, yeah, that's Harry Kane. Whereas it used to be, yeah, that's our Harry Kane. This feels kind of like a real changing over moment, a crossroads moment for Spurs and the rebuild. As we said earlier, it is well and truly fully underway at Tottenham.
Well, so many great questions coming in, but some breaking news coming in as well. Our partners in the UK at Sky Sports are saying Barcelona have signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It's done and dusted. He's in. It's been confirmed. Obviously, the finances, we are intrigued to find out how that's worked out, but I think it's a great pickup for Barcelona. It's going to score a lot of goals in La Liga, and for their young team to have a focal point and experienced player, if he is up to his best and focused and up to speed, then he's going to score a heck of a lot of goals for Barcelona. And so other breaking news in the UK, various reports coming out that Liverpool's move for Carvalho, the young Fulham sensation, has fallen through. They haven't got it over the line, and he's out of contract in the summer. So I think a lot of Premier League teams are going to be circling for him. If Fulham don't get promoted, then either way, they're going to make money from a tribunal fee that they'll get. So really interesting to watch that situation. But a good up-and-coming player that just fallen through on deadline day. They didn't get him. So there's a lot of news coming through. So remember, stay tuned to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com throughout the rest of the evening. We'll keep you updated with all the latest news from around the league. Some really good questions coming in now. I want to keep going with these questions, guys, because everyone watching sending in a lot of really good questions. Good one here. There's a lot generally from Man United fans. It seems like they're quite disappointed with the window that they haven't brought in any reinforcements really for Ralph Rangnick. But Andrew Duffy, great question here. What do we make of Man United's willingness to loan out Donny van de Beek? He obviously went to Everton, but not Jesse Lingard. What do we make of that decision, gents? I mean, does that just show how far down the pecking order Donny van de Beek actually is at Manchester United?
I don't think we're going to know anything about Man United until the tell-all book comes out one day. And I just have no idea how they're operating anymore. The Ronaldo move, Andy shared a graphic this weekend that was mind-exploding about how borderline useless Ronaldo has been besides finishing. And look, that's a crazy thing to say. because finishing is so important, and he gets himself in position to shoot. But you kind of look at their signings, and it's been the same thing for 10 years. It's, ooh, here's a shiny toy. And it's worked with Bruno Fernandes, right? I've just always thought this was a team that was going to go and sign Neymar, and now I'm thinking they're going to do it when he's 37 and can't hack it anymore. The Zlatan move worked, but for every move that's worked for them, there have been 3 that blow your mind. Donny van de Beek was wanted by almost everyone. Was he going to go to Real Madrid? Was he going to go to Barcelona? And when he signed for Man United, I thought, this is a sign. This is a sign that this club, it's not just their gravitas. There's a plan. He can shuttle the ball. He can shoot. He can play make. He can do everything out there. And he never really got a chance. And now it seems like he won't. I mean, honestly, it does not seem like, because if Ralph Rangnick's going to pick the successor too, then you got to think that it's going to be a guy who doesn't favor that sort of player as well. And I just have no idea what they're doing. Remember, was it 2 Augusts ago that they signed Ahmad and Facundo Pellistri, and it was all 18 and 19-year-olds at the deadline? And what have we seen from then? Ahmad's on loan to Rangers. I just no idea what they're doing. No idea. Varane is a great player, but okay.
Yeah, Andy, we touched a nerve, right, in the comment section. There's a lot of Man United fans commenting now. So I know you've got strong feelings on this as well.
Yeah, I'll say something positive for Manchester United. I think them doing no business this window was one of the smartest pieces of business that they've done in a while. This would not be the right time for them, I think, to go and spend. What are you spending for right now in January? If you spend in January, you're spending for this season. They're not winning the Premier League. They're probably not, truly contending for the Champions League this season. So what are they going to spend money for with a manager in place that they know is probably not going to be the manager in 6 months' time? I get the disappointment in wanting something new put into that team to give them a little bit of a shot the rest of the season and maybe push them on and build some momentum going into next season. I just don't think it's the right time, because you need to know who the next manager is going to be before you buy players for the next manager. And that's who the signings done in January would have been for. So I think a little bit of patience for Manchester United fans. I know that's not something they've ever really had to practice in their time as Manchester United fans. But, it's only 6 months, and then you'll be linked with every top player all across Europe, and maybe you'll get one of them.
Only 6 months to every single newspaper in Europe and the UK is going to be talking about. I feel like a couple of players really make fit. There's some great questions and coming in about, Immortal there says they need a central DM. They need Zakaria or Kamara. They could have got them. But Declan Rice is the player that stands out to me. They need to break the bank, whatever they need to do in the summer to bring him in, and that will elevate Manchester United to the next level and bring them a whole new level of solidity. And Immortals just said that. So we're on the same wavelength, apparently. So there you go.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.